have some ideas and experiences to share from my research, from uh, my life experience, and I want to spend at least half the time demonstrating and inviting you into the practice of the C meditation method that is the topic of my lecture today. And so first I just want to, I can mention quickly so many connections with a few of the presenters so far, because one thing we notice when we're looking at traditional or scientific or practices that are connected to nature, as Rahul was mentioning at the very beginning, introducing the traditional medicine group. And one thing is that I view music, have experienced music as part of that, an expression of nature. Okay. And so there are many times that music functions as medicine, in a complement to medicine. And my interest has always been in that transformative power of music. And from a very young age, I had experiences where music was an expression or a practice of meditation. And so, in my own experience, and thinking back to what Dr. Simpkins was mentioning, and about ways of intervening or of healing once people are in a state of PTSD, as she was saying, but even as a deeper level of incorporating a music meditation practice into life as a way to empower individuals to promote health and healing, well-being, vitality, and in many cases to avoid illness, dis-ease, and disease processes that come along the way. So underneath the many different presentations, we can see different levels of language relative to the research that was done. And I like to point that out because at the very base, if we keep going down, even if we say from a gross material level and a molecular or a Newtonian physics and then a molecular and then a quantum, different levels have different ways of expressing something that is foundational to all of them, which is energy. And for lack of a better way to identify that, it's something that can then include all of the different perspectives in ways of understanding how that energy moves. So my interest had been in the way that music meditation, and what that means is one whole. There's a unification, there's a oneness of what I'm referring to or attempting to explain as music meditation. So it's not music for meditation or meditation music. While those are beautiful, there's and necessary, there's a level that I want to touch on and explore. And even though my research, 20 plus years, has been focused in this area, I always love to approach it as though it's fresh and new, you know, like a child almost, like exploring this beautiful thing. And so I hope that helps the potential conversation we can have. What I realized early on that as music meditation is at one level a practice of cultivating self-awareness, okay? And at another level, it is something I encourage all people to engage in at some level in their life, because music is very uniquely connected to us neurophysiologically. And one thing that Dr. Bruno was mentioning about how the external is transferred to the internal is very distinctively expressed in music. And so when we have sound waves, whatever those might be, and they come in through the tympanic membrane and through this process, through the eighth cranial nerve, it goes through this membrane called the basilar membrane that is a transducer that takes sound waves and transduces them into neural impulses. And then neurotransmitters are released. There's a cascade of different chemicals. We give meaning to our experiences. And we have different levels of understanding how to move through them, how to embody them, how to avoid them, whatever they might be. Okay? And so music meditation plays a very powerful role in many different kinds of transformation. So my original interest had been in healing, and healing as a process of moving from one state to another, in other words, a transformation. It became very clear that this can be applied to all kinds of transformation, any kind of goal achievement, health and well-being. And I want to share some ideas and experiences. And again, the language that I'm using is really just one lens through which we can understand a part of something that I want to appeal to and consider more deeply, which is the energetic power of music meditation, okay? Where the neurophysiological connection between sound, meaning that we ascribe to that sound, either through repetition in our culture, society experience, or through an intentional associative process that is at the heart of the C meditation method. It's something I call music neuroprogramming. And so the C meditation method, SEA, it stands for see, experience, and act, okay? And it has a very specific purpose at its heart. And so there are many kinds of approaches, schools, ways of meditating. And if we take the basic understanding that it is a practice that cultivates the expansion of self-awareness, and even to the point one can drop the self and it's just simple awareness, that as that expands, our experiences are different. We understand more because our consciousness is greater. We feel and see more and hear more. We might question more. So as our expansion of consciousness advances, we are then able to have a totally different experience. And it's interesting how the relationship of music's ability to shift our mind into different states of experiences, of energy, of emotions, can be directed toward the future that we want to create. Okay, and that's actually the first step of the C meditation method. So see, experience, and act, SEA. So the first part is to see clearly the future that you envision, okay? And it has to be what is most important in this moment or stage or epoch of life for a person, all right? So if we look at a healing process, and let's say that a person is in a state of illness or dis-ease, and it has a clear diagnosis, whatever it might be, the future they want to see is health and well-being, to be vital, healthy, strong, right, energetic. And it's important to see that in a positive way. So the first thing they might think is, I want to be without this disease, whatever it might be. Okay. But the brain responds to that focus on what the disease is. Okay. And what we want to do is change that into a positive language form. Okay. Because the neural connections of the language that we have, and as we'll see, how music is deeply connected neurologically to us. And when we put the most important thing for one person, right? The most important thing for you, and we connect it to the music or the sound, then we have a dynamic and powerful neurophysiological, meaning-laden process that we embody physically, physiologically. And then with the C meditation method that you do morning and evening, you move into action toward that most important state or goal. So here's how it works. You first go through a process of assessment to identify what's most important for you at this time of life. And what I'd like you to do is actually, as we move into the demonstration part, ask you to just consider this, and that will save a little time. Now, normally the assessment process that a person does takes hours, or at least an hour. Some people do it quite quickly, some people take time, even days, just to reflect, because the first part of the process is to ask oneself what is most important. And to do that, we look at 5 areas of life: the bio, psycho, social, emotional, and spiritual, or the intangible part. Now, you might already have a very clear idea of what's most important for you right now, and that's cool. But if not, just go through this with me, and maybe it will trigger some other ideas or expand some awareness about what is really most important. So the flash, the very quick version of the assessment goes to consider body as the first one. So we have the bio, psycho, social, emotional, spiritual, or the body, mind, spirit, emotion, relationships as categories to consider as what's most important. First of all, for example, in your body. What is most important for you now with your physical being? And even if you see yourself totally integrated and unified and it's one reality, let's just say that there are these 5 ways of looking at that reality, or one aspect or dimension of it, but they're all connected. So therein lies a great potential efficacy with music linked to a positive visualization and reality that you want to create. So what is most important? How do you want to feel in your body? What do you want your body to be able to do? Do you like your body? Do you like the way it feels? Do you love the way it looks? How are you now in the state that you want? And then to go to what is most important for you to create in that area? How do you want it to be? Okay, your physical well-being, your physical body. And then we move into the mind. How is your mind? What is most important for you in your mind at this point? What are the thoughts, memories, and of course, linking to feelings that you want to have? Takes you to the emotional category. What are the emotions that you want to experience on the daily? Okay. What are the ways you want to vibrate emotionally in life? Okay. We move to the relational. What are the most important relationships? And even though I'm going through this quickly, just ask yourself, maybe something flashes to mind and that seems like, oh, there's a connection there. Something sparked in me that's an important thing to pay attention to, if it's not already obvious, okay? And then we move from the relational into the spiritual, or the intangible, or the transcendent. It could be religious, but not necessarily. This is just a way to understand which we can call spiritual or transcendent or intangible, something about, again, at the base level, a dynamic energy that relates to our state of health and well-being, our potential for healing, and for living in the state that one wants, okay? Now, when this is applied in a medical setting, it's very interesting how it functions. And right now, rather than going over research and presenting slides and case studies, I wanted to take us into the experience, even though in this forum, that could be interesting for us. So after doing a really good assessment and understanding what is most important for a person at this time of life, whether that's healing, whether that's a relationship issue, whether that's whatever it might be, that becomes the center, and you want to have that connection to it, that it's not just, oh, it would be nice to have. No, this is something that I must be, I must resolve, I must experience, whatever it might be, it needs to have that energy behind it. Then we move into experience. So during the C meditation, once you have that clear vision, you know, that you can see, then you're going to move into experiencing that, feeling it in your body as though it's real and true now during your meditation, okay? Now, you can stay in that state as long as you want, and music is already going through this process, and I'll show you that how it works, doing this coupling process between the desired outcome that you've chosen and the meditation practice, the content of the music itself, okay? So the meaning of your goal is coupling to the sonic expression of the music that translates from the external sound form transduced through the basilar membrane into and integrated throughout the body. Right? Now, that is just one level of understanding what's happening. There are other ways of expressing it, but I find, especially in this audience, that's an important thing to mention a few times. Okay, so after experiencing from see to experience, then we're going to move into action. So after that distinct period of meditation, we arise from that and we now have a different vision moving toward that desired outcome. Now, when I've done this with students, thousands of people at this point, it's just remarkable, fabulous, the different experiences, and those that really incorporate it into a daily practice get even more and more benefits. And the beauty is you can modify it, you can change it, and indeed, it's important to experiment with different energies of music. So I wanted to share a few examples here together. And there's some different instruments from different parts of the world, Chinese bamboo flute, a Lakota-styled Native American flute, some bowls from China and Nepal, and some drums from Senegal and Nigeria. And so I want to use a few different sounds. So one is the voice that I teach all of my clients and students to use. And then there's familiar music and unfamiliar music. Now, if you want to link your desired outcome, whether that's a health outcome or a life or relationship, whatever it might be, if you want to link that to a familiar music, it's important that that familiar music has the meaning which is connected to your desired outcome, okay? Then it can be great. Often it's best to use unfamiliar music because you go through a process of ascribing meaning or connecting the meaning of your desired outcome to the sound and music itself. So this is a music neurocoupling process, okay? And then through that process, we integrate the meaning of what is carried by the music naturally, right? The sound is naturally carried from the external to the internal into our biology. Okay, so then we move into action. And action, we are now seeing from a new vista, a new level. Our consciousness has expanded, and now we move through the day at a different vibration, if you will, okay? So I want to share some of these bowls, one kind of sound, some percussion sound, some flute, and all shared in this moment, improvised. And so at this moment, I want to ask you to go ahead and just reflect for a moment on what is the most important thing right now and this time of life for you to resolve, to heal, to be, do, or have, to create. What is the most important thing? Is it within yourself, within your physical being, or your mental or emotional health? Is there too much stress? You want to have peace? If it's that, instead of saying, I want to not have stress, say, I want to experience peace, right? Calmness, certitude, strength, whatever it might be, but let's put it in the positive. And if you're already clear, beautiful. Just let that be in the front of your mind and actually allow yourself now to move from seeing what you want into experiencing what you want. And start to breathe in, and I'm going to start to share some sounds that will go along with this, and we'll stay in this meditative state as you move into it, and just ask you to see that vision of what you want. And as you breathe in and out naturally, feel as though it has already come true. So if it's health, or if you guide a patient through this process, to see and feel yourself in a state of health and wellness, energy, vitality, however you might feel it. naturally, and let yourself slowly come back all together here. You can open your eyes, just breathe, relax. Now, even in this very fast, quick uh, framing conceptually and going through a process together, the first question I would be interested in is knowing if you now feel closer to that which you envisioned, that which you decided was most important, and you placed in the center of your mind, and then went through an experience process of embodying that and feeling as though it's real and true while the music was playing. At any moment, did you feel closer to that, or do you feel closer to it now? Very interesting thing. One of the ideas is not to say, hey, music is universally, or this sound is universally applicable for this particular situation. And while we can have results that might show that in some cases, that research is forthcoming. And on the other side, when there is something that works really well and can help a person move into health and wellness, for example, that might change for the person as well. Because the dynamic process of how we move external energy into the internal, as Dr. Simpkins mentioned about the environment and trauma being important, and also as Dr. Bruno mentioned, that process, how we do that becomes a great resource and a potential power for healing, health, and well-being. So some of what I played might have been appealing at an aesthetic level for you, and maybe for some not, okay? So that's part of the process. And one of the things that we do in sharing and teaching this method is to teach people how to use their own voice. And that has many, many other levels that are very important to understand in the process of integrating the energy that is the foundation of music and sound, but is also the foundation of our health and well-being, our molecules, and the energetic profile, if you will, of a human being's state of being. And so in a similar way, when we talk about ways of understanding dynamic or other kinds of processes with homeopathy or other approaches, even in the dynamic processes of the natural world, it's important to keep the adventure and exploration alive. So I love this topic. It's helped me throughout my life. And what I'm endeavoring to do is to help people, even if we don't have the scientific evidence to show the mechanism of potential efficacy in practices that involve music, and in this case, music meditation with a very specific goal in mind. There's also the part of a deep, peaceful state and well-being. And in both of those cases, whether it's for a specific outcome that one desires or it's for general health and well-being as part of life, I really want to share more of that and encourage people to consider sound and music as medicine, as an energy that impacts us holistically as human beings, including our health and well-being. I'll end with this, but I just wanted to say that, to work with some of the scientists that are here today and to set up a very simple add-on to some experiment to monitor and see how particular kinds of music sound as a meditation with the goal of whatever the person wants as an outcome would be fascinating to do. And the research that I've done with physiological measures in music meditation or devotional practices was, in the field and a couple things in a lab, but in a kind of cognitive science music lab. And I just respect deeply the amount of attention and focus that it takes to do well-designed, randomized, controlled trials. And even if you work on an individual level, or it might be a better way in a particular practice, Yeah, I was just very excited also to think of the possibilities of looking really clearly at some of the microbiological and neural aspects that change from the impact of music meditation in our system. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much. And I hope the sound came through on Zoom as well. So please let me know. Thank you so much, Rahul, and everyone.
Yeah, Dr. Ben, it was like, when I closed the eyes and the bell was ringing, and with the fluid, I was on cloud. So if I was not host, then it was like
Great.
I don't know about others, but if it's going for the hour also, it's wonderful. You forget everything, and I think that's the way through the music meditation, like we can uh, leave our tension sometime behind and go further. I really felt that.
I
So
appreciate that because, as you leave yourself, as you said, let's say you leave your body even, what is leaving? And there's a beautiful, scientific, philosophical, spiritual discussion to have about that. But if we think in a very practical, without any categorization, so that all people through that kind of touching experience of the intangible energy of life, that when you feel ill or when you feel vibrant, we all know that. And we know that music and sound is a kind of mind state shifter, hence meditation. And if we did kind of what Rahul is saying, it's a very beautiful way of thinking of it. You leave yourself, but then in that part of yourself, you are very clear about the state that you want to be in. So let's say a patient wanting deeply to be in that state of health and well-being, and they experience that. And I remember in some cases in the mountains of Tajikistan, in the Pamir Mountains, doing some music meditation for a patient who was in severe pain. And he asked us to stay. He asked me to stay because when I was playing for him, and I was actually playing this that is a Persian ney, and it's a Persian flute. This was the bamboo from China and the Native American cedar wood. But even the instruments can have associations. So let's say in Persian classical music, the ney is connected to thousands of poems that immediately respond to the heart of a person. So this would be in that category of familiar. But if we put it into some that could work for a person, but then again, the unfamiliar is great to explore too.
yes, true. So I think Dr. Bruno, he wants to tell something.
Yes, if I can just give a short comment. Thank you, Ben. It was a nice experience. It helped me to focus more on my thought, on my intention, and was very nice. It seems to be a very simple stimulus, but actually is very effective. And just a short comment that you were also mentioning something that I told. Well, actually, if we just give a very quick look, biology usually talks about matter, energy, and information. But actually, we need that information is interpreted. So information needs to have meaning, and who gives meaning to the information gets in. Otherwise, it's just sound waves, no? And of course, we need consciousness. So that's why I told that we surely need expanding the paradigm of biology, including not only matter, information, matter, energy, and information, but also consciousness. That is the only agent that gives meaning to the information we get. So I think that's the frontier we should go through. Yeah.
You remind me there's a couple homeopathic principles that are very interesting and powerful when you look at them in relation to the energy of music meditation. So one is that like cures like. And for example, if someone is suffering from a broken heart, let's say, they usually intuitively, human beings, run to some sad music. They don't go to some happy music to heal. No, sad music. And if the story of that song is closer to your own personal experience, it releases or moves from within that pain that is now an energetic level, cellular, nanoparticle level that could manifest and stay anchor within your tissue and body organ systems, then later causing stress, dis-ease, and all of that pattern, right? So one of the other beautiful principles, which is, I think, Haring's law of cure from top down, from
inside to outside, yes. Yeah.
most important organs to lesser important organs.
Sure.
Process of healing is that. So when one moves that energy from within to out, it avoids a lot of later manifestations if it were to stay. And there's a beautiful idea, you know, that even if you're not a musician, it really has nothing to do with being a musician. And there's also a danger in how you learn and are taught music, or in a better way, how to be conscious of the sonic and music aspect of being a human being, of being alive, and then being aware and to play and practice with how you might connect or more deeply understand that aspect of being alive. And I think that's one of the areas where the human species could do well to really expand. It's like there's amazing medical and technological advances in research. On this other one, it's great to do research about it, but we have such an intuitive sense of the potential power of music and meditation that it would be great to, if we could, and this is part of my goal, I think, to expand our awareness as a species of what that is and can be. Because it's the way you want to flow, because it's moving the music from external to internal. So you have to also be wise in choosing what you want to embody and integrate musically and the meaning that it carries, right? So for example, I'll stop talking here, and if there's another question, but I thought this might be interesting. For example, if I show you this drum, right, and I might be playing something, and let's say I'm going through a stressful part of life, and I actually remember this as a child, when there were difficulties or trauma or something, I would play my saxophone alone, and I was very aware that this energy of pain or sadness, stress, whatever it might be, is now moving out as I was playing. And I wasn't conscious in those words, but as I look back on it, it's very clear that that was the dynamic feeling I was experiencing. So one of the key aspects is helping humans to be creative and improvise. Because let's say I'm in this state, and if I'm stressed or if I'm happy, and I just increase that, you know? But let's say, you know, maybe that's something that I'm just naturally feeling. And another thing interesting that I put in some of the music I shared were certain kinds of rhythms that promote a dynamic of cognitive flexibility, psychological flexibility, and even neuroplasticity, one could say. We lack the research on it specifically, but it has to do with dynamic rhythm. So if you have, for example, a 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and here a 2, 1, 2, 1, and you put them together, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. There's a lot of music that is geared towards healing in traditional practices that uses a lot of rhythms that promote a mental and neurophysiological state of flexibility. And in the process of those rituals, processes, experiences, what is put into the center as meaning is that outcome of health, wellness, vitality. Now, sometimes that's expressed as a spirit leaving the body or as a pathogen leaving the body. Those levels of language are not the most interesting to me. It's more about what is happening at the dynamic and energetic level.
Sure,
All
thank
right.
you.
That's all.
Thank you.
I was enjoying that that flow, Rahul.
Thank you.
Yes. So anyone other, like, you have any question from Dr. Ben or want to say something to him? You just unmute and you can tell.